Okay, make sure you're ready for this very tedious video. I hope to make it a little quick. Make sure that you've already watched the previous video on structure, paraphrases, theory. Make sure you've watched done the questions, done this reading before you jump into this. Then let's go. All right, so we're doing our structure paraphrases. I'm going to keep reminding you of all the things we should be thinking about as we go. Hopefully I can get into your head where you're starting to hear my voice reminding you of things. Here, let's start with the Jeff's Truck reading, beginning of these exercises. Very straightforward. This one should just get you the sense of how the structure works and how we set it up. All right, so first, we'll read. We read once, looking for the main point. Jeff should buy a better truck. The one he's driving is just embarrassing for a guy with that many degrees, and he just got a new job, so he can certainly afford one now. Again, very straightforward, just getting you used to the basic rules here. So what should we do? We should label this as our main point, and looks pretty simple. Very straightforward, right? We double check. Now, let's make sure of any wording. Should we be saying should? Yeah, that's fine. Is there anything misleading in the way this is constructed? Any confusing phrases? No. Very straightforward. And notice, I'm going to leave the wording alone, unless I think there's something misleading about the wording, and I know that the author's intent could be captured better by another word. I'm going to leave it alone. I don't see anything tricky there. I don't think we should say new truck, right? Because maybe Jeff's the kind of person that doesn't buy new things, but prefers used things. And I am. I don't see why anybody would buy new cars unless you just can't find a used one. All right, so far so good. So what do we do? Now we read again, just looking for SPs. So we keep repeating in our head, Jeff should buy a better truck. Jeff should buy a better truck. And then we look for things that directly support or explain or qualify that. And remember, the other little tip is think about, does the author intend this sentence to be connected with another one with because, so, and, or but? Our little connecting terms. We should be thinking those in our head to see if that's the intention of the author in these connections. Jeff should buy a better truck. The one he's driving is just embarrassing. Does that directly support? Yes. Jeff should buy a better truck because the one he's driving is just embarrassing. So let's fill that in. Good. So fill that in. We indent the SP to show that it's subordinate to the MP. We've got it. Anything unclear there? Notice what we'd pay attention to. Please try to notice my cursor. The one he's driving. Is it clear what that pronoun means? We don't want our audience to be confused. So if you want to be really careful, we could say the truck he's driving, but I think it's really clear that this is a pronoun for better truck. Wouldn't confuse our audience, so I think the pronoun's okay. All right, now we keep reading, looking for SPs. Jeff should buy a better truck. That guy has a lot of degrees. No, that's not directly connected, right? That seems to be support for why it's embarrassing. Now notice, we don't put this and in our paraphrase. That's a connecting term the author is giving us. We don't need it, and it would make it a weird sentence. Jeff should buy a better truck because he just got a new job. Jeff should buy a better truck because he can certainly afford one now. Here's an issue where either one would be fine. They are subordinate to one another, but notice this language. Jeff should buy a better truck because he just got a new job. Pretty good reason. Jeff should buy a better truck because he can certainly afford one now. Do you hear? It says so, but we can hear that the better, more logical connection would be because here. I'll explain. Jeff should buy a better truck because he can certainly afford one now. Either of those would make a fine SP, but think about why this would be a better understanding for our audience, and I think the author would approve. What is a more logical reason to buy something? Because you can afford it or because you got a new job? What if your new job pays the same as your old job? What if it pays less? What matters is that you need the truck. These are both actually pretty bad reasons. Even the embarrassing is a bad reason, but is this what the author has in mind? Again, we are paraphrasing, we're not critiquing. So we're trying to capture what the author's reasons are, even though I think both of these are terrible reasons. But being able to afford one is a better reason than getting a new job, so I think that's our preference. But again, logically, they both work pretty well. All right, are there any other SPs? He just got a new job. Now notice, the way we've decided, that will be TP or banning. We don't want to decide everything at once, so we're only at the level of SPs. As we look forward though, ready? We'll go in order. The one he's driving is embarrassing. Does that have any support or explanation? Let's see, a guy with that many degrees. Now that's not a sentence, but did the author intend that to be support for its embarrassingness? Right? All right, so that definitely should be a TP, even though it's really strange. And we do want to make it. Remember, each line is a single claim, but it does need to be a claim. It does need to be an English sentence, right? Straightforward. And we'll simply say, this sounds like the author. That guy has many degrees. Now, does that seem like a logical piece of support, right? His truck's embarrassing because he has a lot of degrees? Not really. But is that what the author intended? Yes, it is. So, any other support for this first SP? No. Straightforward. Second SP. Are there any TPs here? Yes. Now notice, we made the decision to put affording it as the SP, and so therefore the new job, let's see if this makes sense, we can always erase, he just got a new job as the TP. Listen to what happens here. SP, he can certainly afford one now because he just got a new job. Notice, because we reversed the order, this so has become a because. If we put it the other way, it would be a so. He just got a new job, so he can certainly afford one now. Notice how natural that is. Because and so are reverses of each other, and this is perfectly logical. Does that sound like what the author intended? He can certainly afford one now because he just got a new job. Great. Could we have reversed it? Yes, but I think this is slightly better. The other one would have gotten you almost all the credit as well. The flipping those two would have been fine. Good. How is the structure? Clean. This works really well. All right. So now let's look at the next one. We read. We read the first time just looking for the MP. Gus, I can see why you might need a rifle or shotgun, but not an assault rifle. You do not need this kind of gun for hunting. I should think that hunting Bambi's little cousins with a normal rifle is much more of a sport than spraying the forest with your AK-47. Assault weapons are for killing people, not animals. Your need to feel secure in your ability to defend your household against an intruder does not warrant this grade of weapon either. Surely a handgun, shotgun, or normal rifle is plenty for deterring an unarmed assailant. As for armed robbers, it is true that a robber does not want to enter a house where the tenant might be armed, but that doesn't mean that there is a greater deterrence effect if you are not only armed, but have an arsenal that would make soldiers proud. Okay, we can see what the main idea is. Now let's see if we can find it. Notice, a main point might never be clearly stated in an article. You might have to paraphrase one in, or even invent one from scratch. Let's see. Gus, I can see why you might need a rifle or shotgun. Doesn't seem to be the main point, but we can see what it's trying to say. The second phrase there, but not an assault rifle, seems to be the main point. So let's try to make that a nice clean sentence. So MP, we start, and notice the voice here. The voice isn't some general thing about gun control. It's about this person. So we'll start with the second person talking to Gus. Gus, let's say, you don't need an assault rifle. Clear. Is that what all the rest of this is about? Yes, I think it is. Gus, you don't need an assault rifle. Clear. Now notice, we do wish he was a little clearer on what assault rifle means, but this is the phrase. Could there be different things, hunting rifles that are technically assault rifles? Sure there are, but this is the author's intent. Now notice, it would be nice if we can help our audience by being more specific here, but we can't be sure exactly what the author's intention is. Exactly what the author means by assault rifle, I think we can guess. But if we change the wording, the author could get mad. We might not be empathizing well enough, so we gotta leave this alone. I think that's the best decision. Now, we read the article again, and all we're looking for are SPs. So, fill it in, and we'll leave room between these SPs so we can fill in TPs later. Now notice, we haven't had any padding decisions yet. First article was easy. There might be padding here, so we need to pay attention to that. Now let's read one claim at a time. So if we see a sentence that's very complex, we will read chunk by chunk one claim each time. I should think that hunting, let's see, you don't need this kind of gun for hunting. That seems good, because the other phrases are talking about hunting, so I think that's nice. If we use the pronoun you, should we say Gus again? I think it's clear what you is, second person referring to Gus. You do not need, right, now this kind of gun, that seems fine. Another pronoun, gun for hunting. You do not need this kind of gun for hunting. Does that make sense? Let's check. Gosh, you don't need an assault rifle because you don't need this kind of gun for hunting. That seems to be what the author is getting at here. So we've got an SP. So let's leave some room. Now notice we're on a word processor. If I was on paper, I would leave a lot more room so I can fill in content. But on a word processor, we can fill in more spaces if we need it. So now I'm looking for another SP, a claim that directly supports you don't need an assault rifle. Now let's see, hunting Bambi's little cousins with the normal rifle. Nope, it's talking about hunting, so that's a TP or padding, we gotta decide. Assault weapons are for killing people, not animals. Talking about killing animals, that's hunting again. Your need to feel secure in your ability to defend your household against an intruder does not warrant this grade of weapon either. That's a lot of wordiness, but we can see we've got a new subject now. Is this another reason he doesn't need an assault rifle? Yes, it is. He doesn't need an assault rifle because he doesn't need it to defend his household. I'm going to clean up that sentence a little bit, still appreciate the tone, and is that clear? Your need to feel secure in your ability to defend your household. Say many claims in there, but that's, I think, what it's really saying. You do not need one for defending your household. Does that make sense? Let's check. Gosh, you don't need an assault rifle because you don't need one for home defense for defending your household. It's good. That's great. Are there any other SPs? We just keep reading, looking for SPs. Surely a handgun or shotgun is normal for deterring an unarmed assailant, talking about defending your household. As for armed robbers, again, talking about the household. That doesn't mean there's a greater deterrence, again, talking about the household. So what do we have? An article with 2 SPs. Nice and clean. We're not looking for a balanced set of SPs. We're just letting the article decide, make all the decisions about how many SPs, but article looks like it divides into 2 SPs pretty cleanly. Now, we are going to isolate this first SP and just look to see if it has support or explanation or qualification. We read again. You do not need this kind of gun for hunting. I should think that hunting Bambi's little cousins, cute, with a normal rifle is much more of a sport than spraying the forest with your AK-47. What is the key support? You don't need this kind of gun for hunting. Why? It's the point that it's not sporty, right? So let's fill that in. Hunting Bambi's cousins? Notice, that does seem a little childish, but is it what the author intended? And will this mislead our audience? No, it's the tone. I think the audience knows what Bambi's little cousins referred to. Hunting Bambi's little cousins is, now we're going to change the wording. There could be some ways to do this, but we're trying to make this clear. Hunting Bambi's little cousins is more of a sport with a normal rifle. Good, I get it, but I think it would be even clearer if we made the negative point. So look at this. I'm going to change this up. But hunting Bambi's little cousins is not much of a sport, right, with an assault rifle. Would the audience get the idea? If we simply wrote that, would they get it that just makes it too easy? I think so. Could I see him making a good decision about getting rid of Bambi and saying something more straightforward? I think I like the tone. I mean, the tone is kind of ridiculous, but I think it gets the content across just fine. Yeah. Let's see if there's any other TP support for you don't need this kind of gun for hunting. We keep repeating. And now let's double check what we've done. You do not need this kind of gun for hunting. Assault weapons are for killing people, not animals. Does that seem like direct support? You do not need this kind of gun for hunting because this kind of gun isn't made for hunting. Yeah, that works. So we will preserve the author's wording unless we really feel it's unclear or the audience needs help. So what can we do? Assault weapons are for killing people, not animals. Let's see. Oops, too many L's. Sorry. Assault weapons are for killing people, not animals. Is that a single claim? Almost sounds like a combined of two claims, but the author stated it this way. Now, here's a little weird decision. It almost seems like we could write, assault weapons are for killing people, assault weapons are not for killing animals. But then we'd have two claims. And if we have two claims, right, we could do it. We could have a third TP. Assault weapons are not made for killing animals. That's a good decision. I like it. But I think this is fine as well. Right? It doesn't seem too convoluted, doesn't seem like too many claims. Seems like a single claim, so we'll leave it that way. And that's the way the author wrote, so we'll always give preferences to the author, how they like to word things. Good. Are there any other TPs for that SP? No. Then he goes on to the home protection stuff. So let's look to see if there are any TPs for this second SP. Does the SP have to have any TPs? No. We wait for the article to tell us what to do. Your need to feel secure in your ability to defend your household against an intruder does not warrant this grade of weapon either. You do not need one for defending your household. Keep repeating those ideas. A handgun, shotgun, or normal rifle is plenty for deterring an unarmed assailant. What do we think? Yeah, I think that's straightforward. It's clear support. I'm just going to copy and paste that one. That seems nice. Good. TP. Simply make this a capital letter. Don't forget, these do need to be sentences. A handgun, shotgun, or normal rifle is plenty for deterring an unarmed assailant. Good. Is that what the author intended? Does it support this? You don't need one for defending your household because a handgun, shotgun, or normal rifle is plenty. Great. Good. So we've got that. Let's see if there's any more support here. As for armed robbers, it is true that a robber does not want to enter a house where the tenant might be armed, but that doesn't mean there is a greater deterrence effect if you are not only armed, but have an arsenal that would make soldiers proud. Very wordy. So let's try to clean this up a little bit. What does it mean? Notice, I think we need to stress this distinction he's making between talking about unarmed robbers and talking about armed robbers. So I think we need to start with this little phrase. For armed robbers. And then the key is this idea of deterrence, right? If a robber is armed, the idea is how to deter them. Now, pause for a second. Let's do a quick tangent about this. If someone is trying to rob your house, your goal is to get them away. Your goal isn't to get in a firefight. I know video games are fun. First-person shooters are great. But you don't want to get into a firefight. You want them gone. Now, sure, maybe you live in Colorado, Texas, or Florida, and just being on your property means you should be able to kill people. But you don't want to go through that. You want them out of there. You want them running away. So, what is the idea? If they are an armed robber, you want to deter them. So what do we want? Do we want to match them gun for gun, or do we simply want them to flee because we are armed? That's the idea. For armed robbers, let's say it, there's not a greater deterrence with, notice what I'm going to do here. It does say arsenal. I'm going to change that wording slightly because it could be misleading into thinking that it's talking about having many weapons, where that's not the idea, right? So we will say firepower. That is fairly synonymous. I think it captures what we're getting at, and I think the author would approve, don't you? By saying have an arsenal that would make soldiers proud, a little bit misleading. So there's not a greater deterrence with more firepower, means almost the same thing, and I think it captures the nuance better. Good? So now what do? We look, see if there are any more TPs. I don't see anything. Let's double check what we have. You do not need one for defending your household because a handgun, shotgun, or normal rifle is plenty for unarmed assailants. You do not need one for defending your household because for armed robbers it's not a greater deterrence to have more firepower. I think it's solid. Are there any other TPs? No. What do you think? Yes. This is a nice, balanced, tidy article. I think our audience would love this structure. They would clearly understand this article. We've captured the whole thing and shown how it supports each point. Good. All right, next one. Right? This should help you get a little bit of your emotional aggression out on us. All right, let's try it. We read looking for the main point only. Article has to have a main point, might not have SPs or TPs, but has to have a main point at least. It's obvious why we hate coming to this class. The material always confuses us. It is just too hard for anyone that is not a damn nerd. And the last straw is a sucky teacher. He is way too hyper for such a lame subject, and he has the sense of humor of a 4-year-old. I wouldn't be surprised if he started calling us duty heads or something. Cute, right? Now let's see. Obviously the main point is, it's obvious why we hate coming to this class. Now, it's obvious is technically a claim in itself. That is a sentence. So I think we're just going to say, we hate coming to this class. Small little nerdy tangent right here. Notice, it's obvious is a separate claim. But what is it doing? If this was a class preparing you for, say, the LSAT, or this was a language analysis class, we would do a whole reading on what's called indirection. Authors know that they have to give hints to their audience about what they're doing logically, and we do it automatically. Why do we say things like it's obvious why? It seems backwards, but we say it's obvious when we are going to supply more evidence. If we say it's clear, if we say everybody knows. Think of other phrases. Think of when you add I think or I believe. Notice this. People don't just come right out and say something like God exists. They say, I believe God exists. Why do they do that? Because they know evidence is needed. They know that this has to be stated indirectly. It's not just a direct piece of evidence. We have to support it. So when we say it's obvious, it really doesn't mean it's obvious. It means I need to provide some evidence here to show you why it's obvious. When we say I think, I believe, we know that this isn't a straightforward claim. Our audience is going to need some indirection so that we don't sound audacious in claiming something that's not clear. We say I think, right? I believe, it's obvious, it's likely. We know we're going to have to provide some evidence. We know the audience is going to need some support. And so we have to, it's a note of humility. It's weird. Next, we hate coming to this class. So now we read again, just looking for SPs. We think of the connecting terms because, so, and, or but to see if this is what the author intended. It's obvious why we hate coming to this class because the material always confuses us. Very straightforward. That's clear. The material always confuses us. Oops. Sorry. I'm not used to typing looking at my keyboard, and so it's so weird. When I look at it, I screw up. We hate coming to this class because the material always confuses us. Great. Is this an SP? Notice what I'm doing. Reading one claim at a time, repeating the MP in my head. It is just too hard for anyone that is not a damn nerd. That could be an SP, but it's pretty much what we already said. The material always confuses us. We don't need it again. Next, and the last straw is a sucky teacher. Is that an SP? Yes. We talked about the material, and now the author is talking about the teacher. Now, the last straw is a sucky teacher. I think we reword that, make it more clearly a direct claim. What should we say? Either the teacher is sucky, or the teacher sucks. I think the teacher sucks is a little better. The teacher sucks. Is that a complete claim? Is that how the author would talk? Yes. Very unprofessional, but the tone of this is unprofessional. I think it's fine. Let's look to see if there are any more SPs. He is way too hyper. Nope, talking about the teacher. He has a sense of humor of a 4-year-old. Talking about the teacher, not the class. I wouldn't be surprised if he started calling us again about the teacher. So the remaining claims are not about why we hate coming to this class. So those are TPs or padding. We'll decide that on our third run through. So now we're looking at it again, just seeing if there are any TP supports for our SPs. The material always confuses us. Let's see. It is just too hard for anyone that is not a damn nerd. I'm going to rephrase that slightly. Only nerds can understand it. Is it clear? Yes, we see that the it refers to the material. It's right above our TP in the SP, so we're fine with this pronoun it. Only nerds can understand it. Fine. Is there any other TPs? No. Then he goes on to talking about the teacher, so clean that up. The teacher sucks. Is there any support or explanation or qualification for this? He is way too hyper for such a lame subject. Seems good. Now, should we leave it alone as he is way too hyper? That is a single claim, but I think we should add that qualifier right there, and it is a single sentence, so seems fine. He is way too hyper for such a lame subject. I'm just going to steal it. That is the TP, clear, and it's already capitalized. He is way too hyper for such a lame subject. That seems like clear support. The teacher sucks because he is way too hyper for such a lame subject. Now notice, I think we need that qualifier for such a lame subject, because if he was teaching something exciting like makeup tips or how to make meth in your garage, I don't know what you find exciting, then his hyperactivity would make sense. But whatever class this is, wait a second. Were you thinking this was about me, you big jerks? No, we don't know what class this is about. It never tells us. This isn't about my class. I mean, it could be, but that doesn't reflect who I am. Am I immature? Whatever. Shut up. Okay, keep going. And, now notice, we do not include and. That is a new sentence, so we see if this is a TP. He has a sense of humor of a 4-year-old. What do you think? Is that a reason why the teacher sucks? The teacher sucks because, yes. Notice, the phrase in the passage was and. That doesn't tell us how it works. What does that really say? And just means it's on the same level as he is way too hyper, meaning this is another TP support. It says and, but what's the actual connection to the SP? Another because. He has the sense of humor of a 4-year-old. Now let's look at that. Do we need to translate that at all? Is it an exaggeration to say he has a sense of humor of a 4-year-old? Now, we don't know who he's talking about. Surely not talking about me. But either way, right, if this is an adult teacher, is that an over-exaggeration? Probably. But will our audience be misled by this? Will they take this literally? No, they don't. Our audience, people like us, will understand that this is an exaggeration, but we're used to talking this way when we're putting someone down. I don't think they'll be misled and think this person actually tells 4-year-old jokes. We get that it's an exaggeration, so I don't think we need to change the wording. I think our audience would have the right idea. Next, a third SP. I wouldn't be surprised if he started calling us duty heads or something. Does that directly support the teacher sucks? No, it doesn't. That supports how he has an immature sense of humor. Should we include it? No. For us, notice what I'm going to do here. I'm going to make a little note, right, for my teacher to say, this is padding. Why is it padding? Because it's a 4th level piece of support. If we were to include it, it would go underneath he has a sense of humor of a 4-year-old, but that is too much detail for us. We are not going to 4 levels of subordination, so this is padding. Now notice what I would do. I am not grading this little note about padding, but if you make a mistake, you should tell me why you made this decision. So let's say that it should be included, but you made this little note for me. If I think your note makes sense, I can give you partial credit if you made a mistake. So I would make these notes. Whenever I take something out as padding, make a note of it so that I can see that you made that decision intentional. You didn't just leave it off. to where if it's a mistake, I can give you some credit for the mistake because I see that it was a reasoned mistake. So what would I say here? Padding. I would say this is a 4th level. What does that mean? Too much detail. And then just give me a hint about what you left off. The duty heads line. You see it? Give me enough information that so I can see why you did this. This is a 4th level point. It's dispensable detail. So I left off the duty heads claim. What do we think of this? Is that a clear presentation of this piece? Yes, it is. Very good. We can fill in the connecting terms and see that these all make sense as supports. All right, next one. Now notice this is a case where this is a justification for the Iraq War. And in this case, I've kept updating this through the years. Let's see, the Iraq War has been going on for, 17 years now? Do you believe this? Right? Whole lives have been lived since we've started this war. What's going on? So in this case, I keep updating this passage for paraphrasing, and I keep updating it based on what the White House press secretary says about why we started this war. And I keep updating it because we keep changing our justifications for this. The first justifications were just plain out lies, and that's how we always start wars. Sorry, all of our presidents lie about the reasons for going to war, because if they told us the real reasons, most wars wouldn't be supported. World War II probably. But the others, no. We wouldn't support these if we knew the real reason. Sorry. So let's look at this. Now again, even if you hate this, it won't come out of your paraphrase. You're just paraphrasing what the White House is saying about the Iraq War, even if you think this is terrible. Good. We read, looking for the main point. We needed to attack Iraq in order to send a message to the world's terrorists. We also needed to oust that monster Saddam for using chemical weapons that the U.S. helped him obtain on his own people. It was also just a matter of time before he obtained WMDs he used against us, right? Remember, it was, he has WMDs, right? All this stuff. It was about, he was involved in 9/11, right? Come on, right? That's what they said at first to get us into this. Yay, we need revenge for 9/11. You were lied to, and the American public believed it. And depending on what your source of news was, you didn't realize these were lies. You should think more about that. Let's insert a little tangent. They did a nice little study during the start of the Iraq War. And they asked the American public 2 claims. They said, here were the 2 claims that justified the start of the Iraq War. Saddam supported 9/11 and was directly involved in it, and Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. Good? Both of these were lies. But the fun thing is, they did a large poll asking the American public about whether these claims were true or false. And what happened? They also asked the question of, where do you get your news? If the people answering this survey got their news from independent media like NPR or even things like the BBC or things like this, if your news source was something independent, nonprofit, right, PBS, NPR, things like this, you knew these were lies. If your news source was something like CNN or NBC, some of those people thought these were lies, but some of these people believed them. Here's where it gets really scary. If your news source was Fox News or something like that, you didn't think these were lies. You were duped by these because your news agencies didn't fact check that you were being lied to. What makes this even more fascinating? It wasn't an issue of people being misled by what the president said, because the survey also asked, how much time do you spend on your news source and how carefully do you pay attention to it? And guess what? The more the people said, I pay a lot of attention to NPR, then they absolutely know these were lies, because if they paid attention, NPR did the fact checking. If it was CNN, NBC, the more they paid attention, they said that I really pay attention to what the news is saying, the less likely they were duped by these lies. They knew those weren't good reasons for the Iraq War. Here's where Fox News gets terrifying, and check out this study. The more people paid attention, the more likely they were duped by these lies. That is terrifying. I am so sorry, but at least in that case, I think others, those sorts of news agencies like Fox News or AON are misleading the public, not doing their job as reporters. Thanks. Damn. How many people have died in this war? Let me get angry. How many people have died in this war? And don't you dare just count American lives. Because if you happen to be living in Iraq and are killed by this, you don't just judge lives by what flag is on their lapel. Hundreds of thousands of people have died, and why did we endorse this war? Because we were lied to. Pretty standard stuff. Please pay attention. All right. Yay. Let's come back. What is the main point here? Clearly, we needed to attack Iraq. Oops. Good. Now we read again, just looking for SPs. We needed to attack Iraq in order to send a message to the world's terrorists. We also needed to oust, notice it's going on to a different claim, so now we need to test whether the second part of the first sentence is an SP or is it something like padding or needs to go somewhere else. Notice, sometimes we might need to rearrange an article, but only if we're sure the author would approve. Let's think. We needed to attack Iraq in order to send a message to the world's terrorists. Yes, according to this author, that is a key reason. We needed to send a message. All right, let me be offensive and controversial again. What message did we send by attacking Iraq? What message did we send? That if you attack us, we're going to pick some random country that had nothing to do with the attack and attack them because we wanted to attack them anyway. Did Iraq have anything to do with 9/11? None whatsoever. Iraq hates Al-Qaeda. They are completely different ideologies at the time. Saddam had a very different set of very terrible ideologies, but nothing to do with Iraq. So what is the message we're sending? If you attack us, we're going to attack some random country that had nothing to do with it. Damn. But is this what the author's saying? Yes. So how do we phrase it? We need it to be a sentence. So we'll say, we needed to send a message to the world's terrorists. Oops. I hate that message. What is the other way we could see this as a message? The other message it sent is, we are going to be in Iraq doing some mean things to that country. So if you're a terrorist that hates the United States, you know where to find our troops that are in Iraq. Does this suck because our troops are being killed in Iraq? Yes, this sucks. Because was Al-Qaeda in Iraq at the time? Probably not at all, if maybe a tiny bit. Are they in Iraq now? Yes, because they're angry at us for attacking Iraq. Keep going. Let's see. SPs. We're only looking for SPs. We also needed to oust that monster Saddam for using chemical weapons that the U.S. helped him obtain on his own people. There's a bunch of claims there. Let's break it up. We also needed to oust that monster Saddam. The chemical weapons is another claim, so let's isolate the single claim. We needed to oust that monster Saddam. Is that an SP in here? Yes, it is. Right, let's put that out. Leave some room in case we need to add TPs. Good. We needed to oust that monster Saddam. This is just a draft. What do you think of this word here? What do you think? We needed to oust that monster Saddam. Now, we also have another question with the word oust, but let's do one at a time. We needed to oust that monster Saddam. That's pretty childish, but do we need it? I think we do. If you don't have good reasons for your arguments, you insert hyperbole. You insert adjectives that do the points for you. Why do we need to oust Saddam? Because he's a monster. Yeah, it's childish, it's exaggeration, but I think it gives the author's tone. I don't think we should change it. It is childish, but that's what the author intended. Why do we need to oust him? He's a monster. Okay, not a good reason, but it's what the author sees as a reason. What about the word oust? I don't think our audience usually uses that word oust, but I think they can understand it just fine. Do we need a synonym? We could use one, but I think they get the point, and they'll get it from the whole context of our structure. I think it's fine. Now, are there any other SPs? Let's think. The rest of this... Nope. If you read it, look at it's all talking about him obtaining WMDs, so it's about Saddam. Clear? Clear. So, are there any TP support for we need to send a message to the world's terrorists? I don't see any. I don't see any support for that, so we don't need the room. Is there any TP support for we needed to oust that monster Saddam? Yes. Let's think. What is it? For using chemical weapons on his own people. Notice how I'm going to take out this phrase for now and see if we need it later. I'm taking one claim at a time. So what is the claim? TP. Now notice, I have Saddam. I am going to use it again, but you probably could have used he here. I don't think the pronoun would have been misleading, but I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Saddam used chemical weapons. Let's think. On his own people. Yes, I don't think we should put that as a separate phrase. So I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to remove this little dependent clause for now. Come back to it. It is a claim. Let's see what we do with it. Saddam used chemical weapons on his own people. Technically the Kurds, but they were citizens of his country that he hated, and everybody seems to hate, right? Damn, poor Kurds. Is that a good TP? Yes. So let's go back. What do we do with this? The U.S. helped him obtain. Did the United States help him obtain these chemical weapons? Yes. Germany did too. We weren't the only ones, but we did. And did we directly support his using them against the Kurds? Yes, we sometimes like the Kurds, sometimes we help them, sometimes we abandon them, sometimes, like in this case, we said, yeah, we're totally fine. We even supplied him some intelligence about the gassing. We not only supported this with chemical weapons, we also aided him with intel, by the way. I'm sorry to give you this information. I'm sorry if I just ruined your little Care Bear view of how these wars work. Sorry. Now you get reality. It's a logic class. We need to be logical. The U.S. helped him obtain. No, I don't think this fits the article. It would be padding, so I'm going to make a little note. I'm going to make a little note about padding here and say, what do I leave this out for? Dispensable detail. Right, let's hyphenate. U.S. helped phrase. Good. So I'm making a little note to Jeff, my teacher, that I left that out on purpose, right? So that he'll see I didn't just miss something, I had a reason for removing it. So now we read, looking to see if there's any other TPs. What about this phrase? It was also just a matter of time before he obtained WMDs to use against us. Okay, let's look at this. It was also just a matter of time before. That's a lot of wording, right? So let's try to make this a little more helpful for our audience. And let's say he was about to. Do you see it? It was also just a matter of time. That's like a whole sentence. So we'll put it that way. Is the pronoun he fine? I think it is. We know this refers to Saddam. He was about to obtain WMDs. Should we leave that alone? No, it's an acronym that, notice, this war has gone on so long that we don't even talk about WMDs anymore. So what would I put here? I would at least spell it out. Weapons of mass destruction. I would look that up and help my audience and say, WMDs? Audience needs a definition. Maybe we'd want to say even more, but weapons of mass destruction probably makes it clear. He was about to obtain weapons of mass destruction. That is a sentence, but I think we need the qualifier. To use against us. This is getting pretty convoluted. This is almost two sentences. It's almost, he was going to obtain weapons of mass destruction and he was going to use them against us. But I think we need it because I think this is an important claim for this to be logical support for why we needed to oust him, even though it is seeming like we're getting more claims in here. So what do we got? How is this? Yes. Solid paraphrase, one piece of padding. Good. All right. I hope you're taking breaks during this. I hope you're staying hydrated. Sorry This is a really tedious video. Alright, let's look at this one. We read the article looking for the MP. C&M students seem to be alienated from their true needs because they spend every free moment on their cell phones in order to keep themselves from self-reflection. Self-reflection allows people to analyze their goals and values. They show a penchant for alcohol and violence, so they must be deeply bored. Jeff says beer and tattoos are like religion out here in Albuquerque. They spend inordinate amounts of money on cars and technology because these represent status to simple-minded people. Alright. It is clear that first line, this is a very nicely organized little article. The first line is it. C&M students seem to be alienated from their true needs. Oops. What do you think? Problem right here. Possible problem right here. Actually, let's go back and let's focus on the start of the sentence. C&M. C&M students need to be alienated. Notice, acronym. Like with WMD, should we change this? Like when we were thinking of AFA or the IVF in our earlier articles last week, C&M, do we need to define this? No. Why? Because our audience knows what this acronym is. If you are taking this class right now, you are at C&M, so we don't need to define it for the audience that we have in mind. What is our audience? Students taking this class at C&M, so this acronym is actually fine. But this word is more problematic. That is a very fancy word. C&M students seem to be alienated from their true needs. That is not a word that our audience walks around saying. That is not a word in general Gus. So what do? This is actually a serious problem because this is such an unfamiliar word and so technical that we don't know what to replace it with. For example, we could say removed from or made foreign or something like this, but these aren't good translations. If this was just a fancy word and we had an easy translation. Now, if you look it up, what would you find? You would find a synonym like estranged from. Does that help? No. And the other words we use that would be clearer don't have the right connotations as alienated. So this is a weird case where I'm going to leave this alone because it is so technical, and we're just going to have to assume that the audience is going to have to understand what this technical term means because we don't have a good translation. Estranged is good. Separated from, I would count that as fine. If you wanted to translate this as seem to be separated from, that would get you full credit as well. I'm going to leave it alone because it's a technical term and I don't like the translations as well. Separated from is good, but the others would be, I think, too misleading. They would have separate connotations. I'm leaving it alone and let the audience capture it from the context. But I don't normally do that. It is only when I'm sure that I don't have a better translation. All right, let's keep going. C&M students seem to be alienated from their true needs. Good. Now we're looking for SPs. Because they spend every free moment on their cell phones in order to keep themselves from self-reflection. Is there an SP here? Yes, there is. Let's see. They spend every free moment on their cell phones. Now, that doesn't really make sense, but is that the reason why they seem alienated? Could it also be that they keep themselves from self-reflection? Is that a reason? Yes, that is as well. Either of these could be the SP, but they aren't both the SP. One is an SP, one is a TP. What should we do? I think we leave this one in order. It doesn't make real sense for most of our audience, but is this clearly what the author intended? The author is saying they seem alienated. Why do they seem alienated? Because they spend every free moment on their cell phones directly. We could reverse it, it would make sense, but it makes more sense to give the direct symptom of the problem. When you go to the doctor's office and they say, we think you have the flu because you're running a fever. Notice, that would make sense. It's the direct symptom. Now, could they later explain it and say, well, you're running a fever because your immune system is attacking the virus? Yes, but we wouldn't say that immediately. We wouldn't say, I think you have the flu because your immune system is attacking the virus. No. We would say, we think you have the flu because you're showing a fever. So I think we'll follow that direct symptom route. Now, do we leave the word because in here? No. We need this to be a sentence because will be the hidden connecting term. We know it's because, and we simply state the claim. The structure will make it obvious. They spend, dang it, whenever I look at my keyboard, every free moment on their cell phones. Does that make sense to us as a good reason? Not really. It's a fairly deep point about alienation, but it's clearly what the author intended. Now, we are only looking for SPs, so we will make the decision about self-reflection later. So we read the next claim looking for SPs, keep themselves from self-reflection, doesn't directly support their alienation. Self-reflection allows people to analyze their goals and values, doesn't directly support alienation. We keep going. They show a penchant for alcohol and violence. C&M students seem to be alienated from their true needs because they show a penchant for alcohol and violence. Doesn't make a lot of sense as far as our reasons, but is this what the author intended? Clearly. They show a penchant for alcohol. Now notice, all sorts of possible problems here. Let's go in order. Penchant. Is this a word that is in general Gus? No. You don't walk around saying things like, I show a penchant for Catholic humor. No, you don't say that. So what do we say? I think we should change this one. It's not too technical, but it is too wordy. Let's help our audience. They show a penchant for alcohol and violence. What do we want to say? Strong habit? They have a fetish for it? They're addicted or something? We can catch the idea. They show a penchant for, what do we want to say? They show a, what? Strong desire? I think that works. Here's a problem. And. We want to make sure that every line is a single claim, so what do we do with and? If you look at it, it is actually a single claim just with two predicates. And if we read on in the article, they treat this as a single claim when they say they must be deeply bored. So this and is fine. Be on the lookout though. Often an and means we have put two claims together, but here we didn't. We are not treating alcohol and violence separately. We're treating them as the same symptom. Good. So there's our SP. Let's look for more SPs. They must be deeply bored. Is that an SP? Not in the author's intent. As far as the author is concerned, that is support for the alcohol and violence claim. So read on. Jeff says beer and tattoos are like a religion out here in Albuquerque. Is that an SP? No. Clearly it's talking about the alcohol and violence. Next claim. They spend inordinate amounts of money on cars and technology because these represent status to simple-minded people. Burn. They spend inordinate amounts of money on cars and technology. Yes, I'm going to cheat and take it because I can. That is, an SP. But, problem. What's the problem here? That is not a friendly word for our audience. Should we change it? I think we should. Inordinate amounts? The author is being wordy. The author is a nerd here. I wrote this one. The author's being a nerd. What do we say? Let's change this to an easier word. They spend inordinate amounts. Now, what do we want to say? We've got to be careful here because inordinate doesn't just mean a lot. It means what? Too much. If we wanted to reflect the wording of the author, maybe we would use excessive amounts. Fine. What about too much? Too much money, we would change it. We would get rid of this. Sure. Either of those is fine. I think excessive. I think that's a word that our audience understands, and it also fits the tone of the piece. Do I think if you said they spend too much money? Sorry, I'm fixing it. They spend excessive amounts of money on cars and technology, or if you said they spend too much money on cars and technology, I think that's equally good. I think this is slightly better because it captures the tone. But you don't just want to say large amounts. It needs to be more than they can afford. Clear. Good SP. These represent status simple-minded people, not an SP. Good. Now we can check our connecting terms. C&M students need to be alienated from their true needs because they spend every free moment on their cell phones. Alienated from their true needs because they show up at strong desire. Alienated from their true needs because they spend excessive amounts of money on cars and technology. Great. Looking for TPs. So let's go back. We go to the first SP, see if there are TPs. Let's think. They spend every free moment on their cell phones. Now, actually pause there. Every free moment. Is that possible? Can you literally spend every free moment on your cell phone? No. But will this exaggeration mislead our audience? No, it won't. Our audience speaks in hyperbole. We are used to these exaggerations, so I don't think it's misleading. TP. They do this, now notice, in order to keep themselves from self-reflection. But we want to make it a clear claim. So what do we say? They do this to prevent self-reflection. Let's try that. They want to, or they do this, or I like that one. They want to prevent self-reflection. Sorry. They want to prevent self-reflection. You could have said, they do this to prevent self-reflection. They do this to keep themselves from self-reflection. All of those would be great. I think this is nice and clean. Now, what do we do with the next one? Self-reflection allows people to analyze their goals and values. This is support for the self-reflection line, so it would be padding. So that would be fine if you came down below and said padding. But I think we want to include this somehow. So I'm going to do something a little radical, but I think it's worth it. They want to prevent self-reflection. Self-reflection allows people to analyze their goals and values. What is happening here? The author has a special definition for self-reflection, not the ordinary one. They have a special definition. I'm going to try to include it. So I'm going to do something a little sneaky here. They want to prevent, right, self-reflecting on their goals and values. I would not expect you to get that. I think that was really fancy. I think if you simply put they want to prevent self-reflection, it would be fine. But the author has a special definition in mind. And if we put it in as a complete sentence, it would have been a fourth level point. So what do you think of this? They want to prevent self-reflecting on their goals and values. Other wordings could have been fine, but I think that is really good. Again, the other one would be almost as good to leave it as padding, but I think it's a special definition, so I think it's justified doing this little sneaky thing of inserting this definition in the single claim. Good. Any other TPs for that? No, we put it all together. Next. They show a penchant for alcohol and violence, so they must be deeply bored. That seems clear. It seems exactly what the author intended. The connecting term is so. Do we leave the connecting term? No. It's clear that that's the connecting term that is hidden here. It's actually in the article. The audience will understand. Is that clear? Yes. Clear language. Now, is this a TP? Jeff says beer and tattoos are like a religion out here in Albertucky. What do we do with that? Most of you are thinking that's padding. Yes. Why though? It's padding for a number of reasons. So we'll label it as padding. We'll make a little note for our teacher that we made a padding decision here. It's multiple reasons though. First, Jeff says, this isn't like we have some authority figure saying it, it's just some guy named Jeff. It's me. But if this was serious testimony, right? For instance, if it said the Attorney General, or sorry, I guess that would be the Surgeon General. That was so stupid. If we said some doctor or some famous psychoanalytic therapist or something says this, we would include it because it's important testimony. This is just Jeff. And notice what it says. Beer and tattoos are like religion out here in Albuquerque. It's just so immature. The spirit of this piece is fairly serious. It's a fairly serious psychological diagnosis. And then we have this Albuquerque line, like a religion. So it's a joke aside. What else is it? It's also repeating what we already have in our SP. I hope you can see where I'm pointing. The second SP already talks about alcohol and violence, and these are just weird references to alcohol and personal violence. Sorry, tattoos are personal violence. Now, so what do we need? This is both, right? Detail. It is also a restatement of something we already had, and it's also a joke or an aside. Good? That is why we left off the beer and tattoos line. So we make a little note to our teacher that we left this off for all sorts of reasons. It is padding. That shouldn't be included. It is not helpful for the piece or the audience. All right. So we don't need more TPs for that SP. Does the last SP have TPs? They spend inordinate amounts of money on cars and technology because these represent status to simple-minded people. Yes, that is mean, but it's clearly important to the article. These, we need to be careful with this. Is this pronoun clear? They spend excessive amounts of money on cars and technology. Yes, the pronoun is clear. It refers to cars and technology or spending this much. Ouch, that is mean. But is that clearly what the author is saying? Clearly what the author had in mind. Nice, clear, balanced article. Good. Whew. Are you hanging in there? This one is cruel because it is so poorly organized. What is this? I did not write this one. Please don't tell my wifey that I wrote this. I didn't write this. I found this in a, what do you call this? A help column. It was like an online blog where you write in with questions about your relationships, and this like Dear Abby, Dr. Phil, or whatever character was responding. Anyway, the original call was something like, oh, my boyfriend keeps cheating on me, should I dump him? And the advice columnist wrote, yes, you should dump him. And this other person wrote in with this. This is brilliant. So they were mad that this person was telling this other lady, I'm assuming it's not his girlfriend, right, that you should dump this cheater. And he writes this article, and it's so much fun to read. Again, I did not write this. I found this, but I love it. It's just brilliant. Why do you come down so hard on married men who cheat? I don't understand why you believe monogamy is the only right way when it comes to marriage. If monogamy works so well, how come so many men cheat and so many women want divorces? Do you hear the repetition and the awkward organization? Many other cultures openly accept polygamy. Even the Bible says a man can have more than one wife. And in many countries, adultery is accepted and shrugged off as nothing to get excited about. The wife gets, oh, what a great use of the word gets. What does gets connote? A gift. He's giving things to people like he's Santa. The wife gets the financial support and social position, and the mistress gets the sex. This sounds like a fair exchange to me. He is getting away from himself. The truth is, there is not a woman on the planet who can fully satisfy the needs of a powerful male. When women quit asking men to make them the center of their universe and learn to accept a strong man's desire for more than one female companion, families will live together longer, more happily, and with less rancor. This author clearly needs our help. He is all over the place. He keeps changing. He's trying to sound serious one second, and then he just blathers with his hideous, misogyny. What does he even want women? He seems to hate them. So funny. All right. The real difficulty here is finding a main point. Because you will see that if you try this, and I hope you've tried this before you've watched this video, it's really tricky. A lot of the main points that we would want to pick don't capture the whole article. Now notice, let's say something about this. Does an article always directly state its main point? No, it doesn't. Think of this, right? Let's, for fun, pretend my wife is super, super mean, right? She gets mad at me, but let's pretend she's really mean. Let's listen to this little example. Let me give you a speech from my wife, and you tell me what the main point is. Okay? Listen. Hey, dummy, you see that it's Friday, right? And you know that Friday is trash day, right? And do you see that our trash cans aren't out at the curb, but they're in the garage? You see all that, right, dummy? Now, what was the main point? It was never stated. But the main point was clearly, Jeff, take out the trash. Do you get it? Yes. We see what the main point was, even though it was never directly stated. I think that's what we have to do here. We have to look at all of this support and think back to what he thinks he is supporting here. Now, this phrase here, there is not a woman on the planet who can fully satisfy the needs of a powerful male. That's really close. I just think we need to make it more general so all of this stuff, all of this weird phrasings will support it as a single claim. So, what should we do? What is this guy after? He clearly hates monogamy, seems to hate women too, but he doesn't want to admit that to himself. What does he want? We can either state this negative as monogamy doesn't work or something like that, or I think we should state it more positive so he can say all sorts of different things about it. What is he after? Men should be allowed to have multiple partners. Do you get the idea? Right? Now, he is only after sex, it seems. I don't think he really cares too much about relationships, but I'm probably psychoanalyzing this too much. So, how about that? What do you think? Now, there are a lot of other things we might want to say. We might want to make this a little more specific, saying something like married men should be allowed to have multiple sexual partners. We might want to say multiple female sexual partners and all of this stuff. But I think we should be a little more general here because it's unclear what he is up to. Is he only worried about powerful men? Is he only worried about married men? What kind of partners does he have in mind? Does he think we should be able to allow to sleep with sheep or something? It's unclear what he wants, so I'm going to use this more general phrase that's clearly a statement he would approve. If we're too specific, the author might not approve. If we say powerful men, he might say, no, I think all men. It's unclear. So I'm going to be general here. All right, very difficult. But I think if we start with something that general, this thing will organize and we won't have too many tangents because this is so general. All right. The next real difficulty is this first paragraph. It is a bunch of rhetorical questions. Why do you come down so hard on married men who cheat? If monogamy works so well, how come so many men cheat and so many women want divorces? Is he asking genuine questions or are these rhetorical? Let's go back to my mean wife. Let's say she asks this question. What, are you some kind of idiot? Is she asking a question that I should answer? Should I answer with, no, I'm not an idiot, I'm not. No, she is clearly saying you're an idiot. It's just a rhetorical device to be clever. What is the author really saying? So let's paraphrase these rhetorical questions into statements because they actually are statements. Why do you come down so hard on married men who cheat? What he's really saying is, we are too hard on married men who cheat. Is that our first SP? I'm not sure. Let's try it. Next one. I don't understand why you believe monogamy is the only right way when it comes to marriage. Dang, he's all over the place. Next one. If monogamy works so well, how come so many men cheat and so many women want divorces? Another rhetorical question. What is the overall message here? It was almost our main point, but I think it should be our SP. He doesn't directly state it. Well, he kind of states it with this little phrase, if monogamy works so well. What is he trying to say? Monogamy doesn't work. Do you see it? I know this is tough, but that seems to be his SP that organizes everything else he is saying in this first paragraph. So what do we have as TPs now? I know we would normally only do SPs one at a time, but there is so much going on in this article that I'm going to break my own rule and make little notes here about my TPs. Why do you come down so hard on married men who cheat? Well, monogamy doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? because men cheat, right? What do we want to say? Married men who cheat. If monogamy works so well, how come so many men cheat? So I'm going to say many men cheat. Does that make sense? Monogamy doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because many men cheat. What else do we have? Ooh, notice this later phrase. We have another TP. What does it say? Many women want divorces. Sorry. Does that make sense? Yes. What do we do with, why do you come down so hard on married men who cheat? We shouldn't be so hard on married men who cheat. What happens there? Well, now that's padding. Now, what do we do with, I don't understand why you believe monogamy is the only right way when it comes to marriage. That doesn't really fit in that paragraph. That really fits something like in the second paragraph. I don't know where that would go as support for monogamy doesn't work. Should it be its own SP? Maybe. Let's try to decide. So let's go and look for another SP. Many other cultures openly accept polygamy. Even the Bible says, okay, that's talking about polygamy. So we have a decision. Is the SP, now notice we're going to change the phrasing, monogamy isn't the only right way when it comes to marriage, and then have our TPs be culture, many cultures accept polygamy, and then this point about adultery. Well, if we do that, notice what would happen. If we do that, then all these points about social position and mistress gets the sex are all padding. So I don't want to do that. I want to say that this, I don't understand why you believe monogamy is the only right way when it comes to marriage. I think I'm going to treat that as padding, as understood, and have these be my SPs. What do we got? I think we can just take this one right from the phrase itself, so you don't have to watch my typos. Many other cultures openly accept polygamy. Now notice, because we picked this SP, that works really well. Men should be allowed to have multiple partners because many other cultures openly accept polygamy. Polygamy would be great, is what he is saying. Good? What is our other SP? Well, clearly, we'll leave room. It's the point about adultery. What does he say here? Good. And in many countries, adultery is accepted and shrugged off as nothing to get excited about. He says a lot of words. I don't think we need that many words. We will simply say this. Many countries accept adultery. Now, we could say something like openly accept, but I don't think we need all that wording about openly accept as nothing to get excited about. Those are a bunch of new sentences that I don't think add anything to many countries accept adultery. Men should be allowed to have multiple partners because many countries accept adultery. Sounds good. We are only looking for SPs, so we'll break our rule. This one was really tricky. We broke our rule, but let's not try to break it anymore. The wife gets the financial support. No, that's TP or padding. We'll decide, right? Sounds like a fair exchange to me, talking about adultery, right? So padding or TP. Let's move on. The truth is there is not a woman on the planet who can fully satisfy the needs of a powerful male. Is that SP? Yes, that's finally starting to make sense. It's really hateful, but is this what he intended? Yes. So what do we say? There is not a woman on the planet who can fully satisfy the needs of a powerful male. Good? Now, I am, because I don't want to say a woman can't satisfy the needs of a powerful male, because he's trying to say a certain woman or just one. So I'm going to reword this a little bit. And I think it's even cleaner to rephrase this by turning it into a passive sentence. A powerful male cannot be satisfied by one woman. You might even want to say by just one woman to put the emphasis. Could you have said it a different way? Could you have said a single woman cannot satisfy a powerful male? Yes, but notice the audience might misunderstand single woman to mean a woman that's single and not married. See, that could be misleading. So I like this phrasing of it. I think it makes it really clear. A powerful male cannot be satisfied by one woman. Clear. When women quit asking men to make them the center of their universe, what is he doing there? I don't know, right? Learn to accept a strong man's desire for more than one female companion. Gosh, this is weird. Families will live together longer, more happily, with less rancor. What do? I think there is an SP here. Sorry, we're running out of room on our screen. I think there is an SP in that last phrase. What is it? Because we have our MP as men should be allowed to have multiple partners. Please don't quote me out of context. I think there's an SP here. And what is it? It is this happy, super great reward that you get. It is this idea that families will, what will they? Live together longer, more happily, with less rancor. What do you think of that phrase? I think we should change that phrase a little bit. I think we use something much more easy to understand, like less conflict or less arguments or something. But I think we need this as an SP. Families will, here, I'll just take it. Live together longer, more happily. I think that's all fine. I'm just going to change the last word. Families will live together longer, more happily, and with less, let's change that word to conflict or stress or arguments or something. I think that's fine. Phew. What do? I think we've got all our SPs. Let's go back and look for TPs. So, many other cultures openly accept polygamy. TP. What do you got? Clear TP there. Even the Bible says a man can have more than one wife. That seems great. Do we need to change any wording? Nope, that seems fine. Any other TP support for the polygamy line? Wait, pause for a second. What if you put the polygamy and adultery together? No, they are different things. This is having multiple wives. This is having a side of fries, having a mistress, cheating on your wife. So they are different things, and they have very different support. The Bible doesn't say you can cheat, right? It says, no, don't cheat, but you can have multiple wives. So we have to separate these. Those shouldn't be together. They are separate SPs. Are there any TP supports for many countries except adultery? Yes, now there's separate support. What do we get? The wife gets the financial support and social position. We could put that as 2 TPs, but I think it works fine as 1. So we've got it. Is there any phrase in there that needs to be translated, or will our audience understand this? Yes, I think it's fine. Do we have another TP? Yes, we do. What is it? The mistress gets the sex. It's so funny, right? He is so nice, giving sex to people. So funny. Good. Clear TP. This is clear support for many countries except adultery. Why do they accept adultery? Because the wife does great and the mistress gets stuff too, right? Those are supports. What about this phrase? This sounds like a fair exchange to me. Padding, right? I would make a little note. We don't have room for that. That is 4th level, right? Too much detail. Whew, we're almost there. Is there any TP support for a powerful male cannot be satisfied by one woman? What does he say? When women quit asking men to make them the center of their universe. Is that support? No, that's just weird. So I would make a note that I'm leaving that off as padding. He is just being mean about women. He is not supporting his point about why a powerful male can't be satisfied. He is just saying, I hate women. Learn to accept a strong man's desire for more than one female companion. Let's think. Should we put a TP here that says women need to learn to accept a strong man's desire for more than one female companion? I think that's more padding. I think he's just repeating what he's already said, that they can't be satisfied. Do we add it? I would forgive adding it, right? So we would say something like, a woman needs to accept a strong man's desire for multiple women. Look what happens when we add it. What does that do? Let's think of it in terms of our connecting terms. A powerful male cannot be satisfied by one woman because women need to learn no. A powerful male cannot be satisfied by one woman, so it does work. It does work as a so. So I guess we need to leave this. I could see a good argument for taking that out as padding. Women need to learn to accept a strong man's desire for multiple women. He put it, I'm really on the fence about whether that's padding. Good. Now, go down here. Families will live together longer, more happily, oops, sorry, that was terrible, and with less conflict. I'm glad I caught that typo. Is there any TP here? No. He is just saying this is what you'll get. We should critique this article later, but I think we've captured it. Would I, on a quiz, add a bunch of padding notes at the bottom? I would. I would add a bunch of padding notes. I don't want to waste your time and have you do this. Good? Do we have our article? We have our article. For this last one, I'm going to do something a little different. What we are going to do, because I am really testing your patience with this super long video, is I am going to simply list all the claims in the order of the article and show you all the decisions to be made. Could you do it this way on a test? Sure, this wouldn't be a bad way to do this. Okay, so here we got it. Because we're using word processors, I am simply going to take all the claims. Good. So now I simply have all the phrases. So I'm reading the article, looking for the main point. Jeff looks like a living Cro-Magnon. Cro-Magnon, oh, sorry. It's a French place, right? So I'm saying it with a French accent. I'm sorry. I'll try to learn to say French words like Midwest Americans do. Des Plaines. Or what do we got? Rio Grande. Cro-Magnon. Sorry, it's a place in France. All right, sorry. Jeff looks like a living Cro-Magnon. Cro-Magnon is a rare prehuman primate. Jeff is a dead ringer for one. He has freakishly long arms. He is able to grab his wallet by reaching over his shoulder. I think we can already see what the MP is. Now, decision. Good? Let me make some room. Let me simply highlight the key decisions we need to make. First one. That is a very technical term. Does our audience walk around talking about Cro-Magnon? No. If we use something like Neanderthal, that would be clear. They would know what we refer to. Should we replace this with Neanderthal? No, it's a different thing. Cro-Magnon is different than Neanderthal. We can't use a synonym unless it's truly a synonym. So what do? Two things we could do. We could either replace this with the definition provided in the article. Look at our next line here. The next line is a definition. So should we simply replace it? I don't think we should. I think the easy decision is to leave the technical term, but include the definition. We could either do this as a dependent clause, but I don't like that because that's going to sound like multiple claims. Jeff looks like a living Cro-Magnon. That is a rare prehuman primate. No. I'm going to simply do this, and I think this is the best decision. I'm going to treat that as my first SP. The SP is giving the audience a definition they need. We shouldn't leave Cro-Magnon alone, but I think the technical term is interesting, so we'll define it and put that as our first SP. All right. Let's look for additional SPs. Is this next line here? Sorry, I'm moving around so much. Jeff is a dead ringer for one. Is that an SP? We keep repeating the main point to ourselves. Jeff looks like a living Cro-Magnon man. Is Jeff is a dead ringer for one an SP? No. What is this? This is padding. Why is it padding? Because it restates the MP. To say Jeff is a dead ringer for one is saying he looks like one. So what do I do here? It's padding. So I'm going to make a little note at the bottom, like I said you should do, and put it as padding. Do you see it? That restates the MP, so we leave it off as padding. Good. Next decision. He has freakishly long arms. Is this an SP? Yes, I think you'll see that it's clearly a because. Jeff looks like a living Cro-Magnon. Why? Because he has freakishly long arms. Is this a problem, though? What about that word? It's not very professional, but it's clear. I think it's fine. I don't think it needs to be replaced. So what are we doing? Just looking for SPs. Jeff looks like a living Cro-Magnon man. He is able to grab his wallet by reaching over his shoulder. No, that's not an SP. His head must be twice the size of a normal person. Yes, This is another trait he has that, according to the author, makes him look like a living Cro-Magnon. Sorry, we are talking about me here. His head must be twice the size of a normal person. Fine. Now, problem. Twice the size. Is that an exaggeration? Yes, absolutely it has to be an exaggeration, or he'd be dead. Does our audience understand this as an exaggeration? Yes. When we use a phrase like must be, we are understanding that it's an indirection flag, and it's stating misdirection. The exaggeration is clearly intended. The audience wouldn't be misunderstood. Good. This is a particular feature of prehumans. Nope, not an SP. That is talking about head twice the size. Keep an eye on the original article. Just the other day, one of his students mistook his hat for a car cover. Nope, that is again support for his head size. Finally, that is a key indicator. He has grotesquely short legs and a protruding butt. Yes, there's an SP right there. We will be careful of its wording. SP, leave some room. Do we need this word finally? No, that is not a key word. We want this to be nice and clean. He has grotesquely short legs and a protruding butt. Sorry, we're talking about me. Grotesquely. Is that an okay word? Yes, that's a great word. What about and? Are we using two claims here? No, it's a single claim, just two predicates. It is talking about similar traits. How do we know that this is a single claim? Well, look down here. The author treats the two traits together, so it is a single claim. All right, keep looking. Do we have any other SPs? All that is missing is the unibrow in a club. What do we do with that? What do I do? All the rest of this is funny and exaggerated, but it is referring to traits that he has. It is not referring to traits he doesn't have. And notice, it's not even a serious trait. It is not talking about bone structure or something, and it's saying a club behavior. So, no, I'm sorry. I think you would agree with me that this is more padding. All that is missing is the unibrow in a club. That is clearly a joke or an aside, right? So we left that off as padding and made a little note about it. Good. So what do we got? One more line. Again, read line by line looking for SPs. I'm thinking of bringing a giant net to class and nabbing the guy to see if the Smithsonian could use him for their Stone Age exhibit. Clearly, we've got another bit of joke aside. The whole thing is funny. The whole thing is making fun of Jeff. But again, this is clearly out of bounds. We are now just being goofy. What do we have? Another joke or aside. We left that off as padding as well. Clear. So we have our SPs. Now what are we left with? Let's see if there's any TP support. Any TP support for rare pre-human primate? No, just a definition, we've got it. He has freakishly long arms. Yes. Now be careful where you are in the article if you do it this technique. This is TP. He is able to grab his wallet by reaching over his shoulder. Sorry. You see the imagery here? It's that idea is that his arms are so long that he can grab his wallet by reaching back. Sorry. Quick tangent. I had a buddy named Jimmy Lau whose dad wore his pants up really high. You know how some old guys do that? They have a white belt usually, and they have like pastel blue slacks, and they wear their pants up really high. Well, sorry, but that's what we used to say to Jimmy's dad. We used to say, "Hey, Mr. Lau, can you grab your wallet?" Oh, he got so mad. Sorry, okay? We understand that as TP, it's exaggerated, it's ridiculous, but it is meant as evidence for his long arms. Now notice this next phrase. Now look at where we are. We have now done all of the TP for the long arms. Now we're talking about his head. So let me make this clear and put it where it is in the article so you can make these decisions visually easier. His head must be twice the size of a normal person. This is a particular feature of prehumans. Is that a TP? Yes, it is. And what it is the author is pointing out something about this. Notice, this is a qualifier. Notice the connecting term. His head must be twice the size of a normal person, and this is a particular feature of prehumans. He is underscoring this as something really important, and so we need to in our paraphrase. What about the next one? His head must be twice the size of a normal person. Just the other day, one of his students mistook his hat for a car cover. Ridiculous. That's how big his hat is, but it actually does make sense as support. This is an indirect way of saying how huge his head is, so it is relevant evidence. Is it exaggerated? Clearly it's exaggerated, and our audience will understand that. I don't think we need to reword this. Finally, he has grotesquely short legs and a protruding butt. Is this last claim that we're including, does it work as TP? I think it does. It is ridiculous. These last two traits give him the distinct gait of some kind of primate. I don't like the word gait. We can tell what it means. Let's just say walk of some kind of primate. Yes, very funny. Brief, let's have some fun and tell a little story as we're done. This is a great paraphrase, right? Clear article now. Brief aside. Is there something true to this in terms of my morphology? Yes, there is. So let's end with a fun story that makes fun of me and is cruel and hurtful. Okay. I do not dress fancy, but sometimes I'm invited to a wedding. I even had to perform a funeral once, right? Remember, I do have a seminary degree. So when I have to get nice clothes, I have to rent them. So I go to the little shop and rent a suit, rent a tux. I don't want to buy these things. And I have to get fitted. Here's what happens. When I walk in, I know this is going to be embarrassing because my body structure is really grotesque. You might not be able to tell on camera, right? It just is weird. I walk into the place and I tell them, I am really hard to fit. I have body dimensions that are really awkward. And so could you please get your seamstress or your tailor or someone to help with this because I am really hard to fit for a normal suit. And what do they always say? Oh, you look perfectly normal to me. I do somehow look normal in person. I'm sure this won't be that difficult. What happens really soon? Well, they start measuring me and they call out their measurements to their little assistant, right? So they start saying, all right, let's see, chest 42. That's pretty big, but that's fine, good. Now let's measure the arms. And then they say some number and they don't believe what they're saying. They measure it and they say, I don't know what the numbers are, whatever, 38 or whatever they say. And the person goes, did you say 28? Right? No. And this goes on for the next 5 minutes. They measure my inseam and they're like, okay, inseam 18. Like, did you mean 28? No. It is so embarrassing. What ends up happening is they call out a bunch of other employees from the store, including the tailor or seamstress who I said to get out here from the very beginning. They surround me like this is a teaching hospital, and they're doing a quiz trying to diagnose the patient. It's incredibly embarrassing as they try to solve my morphology, and then they get really excited when they solve it. They do something like this. Well, let's use the pants from an obese child, and let's use the jacket from an athletic man, and then we'll make sure the sheens match, and we'll put it together, and then they start high-fiving each other and chest-bumping because they've solved their grotesque measurements of this freak, and I am completely embarrassed in the middle of a store while everyone's watching me trying to be fitted for a suit like they're trying to put a baboon in a tuxedo. Thanks. All right. That was grueling. You did great for paying attention. Bye.